Hi guys, hope you're well. Here's another part of the interview I did with Gypsy Joe Smith. He's an unlicensed fighter and a brilliant golfer. He's also got his own YouTube channel, Kushti TV, so do subscribe to that. Here he is, Gypsy Joe Smith.
The unlicensed is now sort of licensed, and it's a very good breeding ground for young fighters, because it's an ABA show. You might see 150, 200 people there.
Yeah.
You go to an unlicensed show, you've got 1,500 people. So to get rid of the nerves and the experience to fight with no shirt on, you know, you could possibly do 6-8 rounds. It's a fantastic training ground. So it looks as though my youngest son might be heading for the Portlock stable again.
Fantastic. And
nice fellow.
Great venues. You've got like the Circus Tavern that you fought at, and also York Hall, which is just a fantastic venue.
You can feel the atmosphere there if you're exactly in the atmosphere. Is great,
absolutely
fantastic place.
That's it. So tell us about actually sort of fighting there. So you fought, so how many times did you fight at York Hall?
Twice.
Yeah, so Tony Louis, and then your final fight.
Yeah, Paul Wiltshire, yeah.
Tell us about that final fight, because it was like your 14th fight, was it, or something? 13th, and you come back after how many years out of the ring?
Yeah, 10 years out. I come back against Stan Lovett on my 12th fight.
Yes.
And come back after 10 years against Stan Lovett at the Circus Tavern.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
What was that like? You know, because you had all family and friends. Were they for you getting in the ring or not?
They weren't. All my real friends weren't for it, and my family obviously weren't for it, because you know they're in fear of old boys getting hurt, and it is a young man's game. But just something I needed at the time. I threatened to do it at the age of about 40, but it didn't transpire. I lost my dad, and a manner of things, and it just got pushed back towards in my 45th year. But
so what was the fight that you had? I was watching where. Was it your opponent got disqualified? I mean, it looked like it was a right old ruck, wasn't it?
It was a right mess. My opponent, that was Paul King. His brother Mark was a border control fighter, and Paul was a professional rugby player and turned to unlicensed boxing. He was a big, strong old boy, but he didn't particularly know how to box.
Right.
And
I see at one point the referee was trying to separate you and all that, wasn't it?
Gary Bedford, a friend of mine from the IBA unlicensed, nice fella,
the referee,
and he tried to get us apart. In the end, it was amazing. We all went over, but he got disqualified. The thing was, it was what you don't see on the camera. There's a lot going on. I had a couple of issues out the ring, and he turned up about 5 or 6 hours late. I had a flight booked in Spain. Everything just manifested, and I wasn't quite thinking clear. And he kept holding, so I just went bonk, nutted him.
That's right.
Get off me. Yeah. And then so obviously I'm warned for nothing, as you should. But then it's persistent holding, and it's clamps around the side of the head, and then a couple on the floor, and it was just become a big tangled mess, me, him, and the ref. Yeah. So that's what it was, and he's persistent holding, and probably me being a slightly favourable fighter because he's from Rotherham in the north. I won on disqualification, but it could have just as easy threw us both out, really. But he was the older, I was the nutter.
Yeah, fantastic. So one of the guys you fought was Steve Yorrith, and I really like Steve Yorrith. He's like a very skillful fighter and probably doesn't get enough credit, I think. But what was that fight like with him?
Steve, good skillful fighter, lovely man. Somebody I really, because I got involved with Steve in our post fight. He come down and fought somebody on one of my promotions, and he actually brought a fighter down to fight me as well. Right. And so on. So he brought a team of fighters from Bristol. He's from Wales, but he's based in Bristol now, I believe. Yeah. But a good man. He beat Roger McKenzie, went 12 rounds for the Queensland State heavyweight title, went to full distance, even with a big belly on him. So he was really, really skillful fighter, and passed, in credit to Steve when I fought him, passed his best. But I do say this right now, Steve's listening. Had I not tricked him with the timekeeper?
That's right. You did. To explain that trick to the viewers, what were you doing?
Well, I shouldn't. Now I'm an old retired fighter. I give some of my tricks away. Yeah. But I learned something from the great Larry Holmes. Is what I do. I study things, and if I can learn something to make me better, I'll put it on board. Maybe it's a tip for you guys, youngsters out there. But Larry Holmes was fighting Ray Mercer, and he looked at the timekeeper once, shouted at him. Looked twice at the timekeeper, shouted at him. On the third time, Ray Mercer just took his eye off the ball, and Holmes caught him with a fantastic, I think, right-hander it was. And I just done the same thing to Steve, and he was an experienced fighter, and I just thought,
Yeah.
You know, and the third time
He
he
fell
just
for it,
glances
yeah.
and I catch him with a left hook,
Yeah.
and it become a flurry of punches. But by my admissions, trust me, and if I not tricked Steve, I wouldn't have. I may have beat him on points because there's a fairly good fight we were having. There wasn't much in it. I may be ahead on points, but I wouldn't have. I really don't think I would have got him out there because his next fight, he come to my show. He fought a 6'6" bloke.
Yeah.
Delroy, and Delroy couldn't get him out there. He lost on points. He's a tough man and a lovely man. If you're watching, Steve, hello.
Yeah, and he's great at sort of kind of tying you up, isn't he, on the ropes and things like that. He's very skillful guy.
Just an experienced warrior. People don't understand. I think he won something like 8 or 9 of his 30 fights or something like that, but you don't realise how good these journeymen are, you know.
No, he's an excellent fighter. Which brings me also to another one of those guys, Sheridan Davey, who big tall lad, nice guy. I know him from Plymouth.
Yeah.
And you had a fight with him, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did that go?
Yeah, it was nice. He's big, tall, athletic-looking bloke. We fought on a charity awareness. A lot of people say, if you see footage of it, I've got my yellow jersey on, but that's not because I'm too flabby and overweight, because that was always there, that side of me. It was because I'm making awareness for charity. So it was for a nice cause, and we actually had a decent 3-round match. But I Sheridan's a decent fighter, and it wasn't a bad little matchup actually. And
Is it difficult fighting a fighter that is tall? He's a very tall lad, isn't he? Does that present its own problems and stuff?
Well, without being boastful, I didn't have any trouble with tall fighters.
Right.
But when I say, look, if we beat Tyson Fury or Lennox Lewis, let's get it right.
Yeah.
But the height it's not something I felt uncomfortable with, because I used to jab to the body a lot.
Yes.
And if they're tall, I think you nick a point. I was brought up, which is, the modern day judging is a bit to be left to his side. When I was brought up, if you landed a punch, head or body, it scored. So I used to jab to the body a lot. If a guy's a big tall guy, could jab to the body and miss his reach and go under. Back in the day, I wasn't a short heavyweight. I was 6'1.5", 6'2".
Yes.
But you're still very often fighting people taller than yourself, like. But I didn't particularly find it a problem. But it was a nice match, me and Sheridan. Yeah, it was good. When I come back, approaching 45 years of age, up here, believe it or not, I was miles better. When they say nerves are frayed, you're an older man, and all this stuff, he hasn't got the nerve. My nerves weren't frayed, my nerves were bang on. I was obviously physically not as good as the younger fighter, right? Say like 32, I felt like I peaked. So I wasn't going back in physicality peak, but mentally I was bang on. So I enjoyed that fight very much, because I've seen Dan Lovett, my opponent, lose fights. He's 18 stone 1, but I've seen him knock out people, and
He's got a punch on him, hasn't he?
he carries a bit of a punch. I've seen him beat Gary Slayer's 6'10" giant who Joey Pole promoted in one round.
That big tall
the giant
blimey.
Gary Sayers, 6'10". He didn't come off his chair for the second round. I see him knock somebody else spark out. I see him go a good 8 rounds for the British unlicensed title against Lee So I knew he had a bit of sank about him. But in fairness to Dan, nice fellow, we had a nice chat after. He barely laid a glove on me, to be honest. I think, he laid somewhere, I still can't see it on camera, he laid a little bit of an half meaningful punch on the nose. And he hit me a couple of body shots, but they were nothing. But he hardly laid a glove on me, and without being boastful, and in defence of Dan, he's a decent fighter, that's what made me feel like it was my favourite fight, because at the age of 45, if you can take care of a 31-year-old 18 stone bloke who knows his way around a little bit without having been it, that made me really happy. Some guys could explode him away in one round, but I wasn't a particularly massively powerful puncher. So to take care of him, without hardly getting hit, and actually nearly knocking him out, I hurt him on the end of, I think, the second round. It was very pleasing.
You did a lot of boxing promotion, and how was that? Did you enjoy that? How was it in comparison to actually having the fights?
Yeah, it was good. It's a different type of pressure, but you still got to entertain. I mean, as a boxer, I didn't go out to particularly entertain. I went out to keep myself safe and win. If people liked my style, that was fine, but that was the way I'd done it. But with promoting, you've got to entertain, so people want decent fights on there, and people don't want any trouble. So, it wasn't like the old free-for-all unlicensed intentions of me. It was, get people in there, get people relaxed, get people enjoying it, put the fights on. But it was good fun, and we made a few bob. But you know, there's more beyond it than making a few quid. You got yourself to think about as your principle, you know, as a man. So it was nice to see everybody enjoy themselves. So I think I pulled it off, to be honest.
So there's a few fighters here that I think, I don't know if you were involved in the sort of Hammersmith shows, but the people like Richie Horsley, Andy Pitbull, Hunter and stuff, these were friends of yours. Did you ever promote those people?
Yeah, Andy was my sparring partner. I promoted Andy, I got him on the road.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing what come out of my gym, those West London shows, Hammersmith, weren't promoted by me, but
I think was it Ricky English? I think you might have done that. So I don't know.
No, there wasn't. There was a bloke named Steve Huff. It all come out of my gym.
Oh right, okay.
All the advice come out of my gym. It's all snowballed. It all come from my gym. So there's a young guy called Steve O'Meara become the Southern Area professional champion. I used to have a move around with Steve. He's like a light middleweight Southern Area champion. Lovely young kid. Got himself in trouble in a criminal activity later on as a champion, which was a shame because he was doing well. But the fight of Gladiators and Rhino, Andy Pitbull, Richie come all the way down from Hartlepool to fight, and I see.
Who did he fight? I can't remember. It was a great fight that he had that night. Richie
I can't recall.
What's his? It was Gary Marcel.
Was it? Yeah, that makes sense actually. That's making sense. But what I do remember is seeing Richie come down without any fan base.
Yes.
But if he had them, he weren't in the bar where I saw him. Right. There was Joey Pyle, Chris Lambriani, Roy Shaw, Dave Courtney. I think a few of the faces in his VIP lounge, and Richie was sitting just to the right, and he had lost his fight. And I come in the bar, and I recognised. Saw Richie there, and Richie was just a little distant. Nobody was being rude or pushing anybody away, but he was a little distance from the faces.
Yes.
And I thought I've got to go and give this man some attention.
Yes.
Because whilst he lost his fight, I recognised straight away, because you don't always see it in winning fighters. You recognise that in defeaters sometimes. You know, don't mean the word defeaters as in the bloke that loses the fight, if you like. I walked over to Richie, and I could see a real warrior in Richie.
Oh, he
back in his heyday, right? So I went to Richie's side and said, "Mate, you don't mind? I'm Joe Bugner Smith." "Oh," he said, "I've heard. Oh, you can't." I said, "All right, mate." I said, "We have a beer together." I said, "Yeah, it's a really nice fella." So if you're listening to this, Richie, hello to you, mate, and I'd like to hook up and have that other beer again sometime. Good man,
great fighter. I interviewed Richie. He is a great fighter. I think he always wanted to fight Charlie Bronson. Actually, was one of the things that he wanted to do.
Yeah, rather you than me. Might be all right now. Might be a bit too old now, Charlie.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but that I remember in the third round that Richie he turned Gary Marcel on the ropes and really had a real go in that third round. So he had that fighting heart with him and stuff. And also on that same night, your mate Andy Pitbull Hunter, that Rhino fight was a great fight actually, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think Rhino won the fight. But I filmed that, and that was a very exciting fight.
My old mate Andy, he was brave. I mean, he was started as a novice, and I trained him up and got him to a level. But a Rhino come out all guns blazing, and Andy was put up quite a stubborn performance, but went over in the second, I think. Good fight though. Even so, how long it lasted.
So only a few more things. Who are your boxing heroes?
I appreciate all fighters in the ring. I had a grandfather that was a title contender, and one of my favourite persons, Gypsy Johnny Frankham. We loved and adored. But champions going up. The best fight I'd ever seen is Sugar Ray Leonard, and he just seems like a real nice character.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, well, I do. He's the best fighter I've ever seen, pound for pound. Sorry, all you warriors. That's my opinion only. But there's so many I admire. I love defensive fighters. Even my old namesake, which has nothing to do with my style. Joe Bugner was a good fighter.
Underrated.
Good fighter. There's really some good British fighters. I mean, I liked the likes of Frank Bruno. I tended to like good defensive fighters. And I love watching the Klitschko's. Ali, so it just goes on and on. I just like good fighters, really, to be honest, and all different styles, really.
And have you been lucky enough to meet some of your boxing heroes?
John Conte actually done a bit of TV work.
That's
with John.
Right. Didn't you do some golf with John Conte?
I challenged him in a golf match.
Who won?
I beaten him 1-up. with the handicap.
Yes.
And it was a real good day. But what was funny, I challenged him to a fight, and he didn't know this, John. I completely tricked him. Yeah. So I said, right, you're the older man, you got the pedigree, you're WBC International Light Heavyweight Champion. Yeah. I'm an unlicensed fighter, so you have the pedigree there, but it's a bit of an age comparison. We were similar weights and size. He says, yeah. I said, come on, let's get the gloves on. So John didn't know at this stage what was coming next. But I said, it's going to be Queensberry rules. You promised me Queensberry rules. And he went, well, all right then. So I chucked him a pair of gloves, I had my gloves.
Oh, really? So you actually had a fight with him, yeah?
And we had gloves on.
Yeah.
And as we went to go like that, I said to my brother, quick. Yeah. So before we could square up to lay a punch, my brother put a belt right on top of my head.
Right.
So I said, no, it below the belt, and I tricked him.
That's great. He was a great fighter, wasn't he, John?
Yeah, great fighter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, rough, tough fighter, yeah. Good skill set, but a tough, hard man with it, yeah.
Absolutely. Only a few more questions here. Who would you say were the most important influences in your life? Would it be your parents?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, grandparents and parents, what they installed in me, so much love, so much, support from love from a little child, a little boy, and support what I wanted to do as a man. But more importantly, the telling off if you were wrong, as a child or as a man. And I couldn't get away. I'd have all the love in the world, anti-violent, my mum and dad, lovely people, looking out for the underdog, but if you were wrong, they would let you know we're both barrels, right? And I think that's installed something to me. I had a one-on-one with my dad when I was in my early 20, maybe 20, 21, and he gave me a few untruths. And we were settled in an house at this stage, and I went upstairs to my room, and I referred to it as saying I was like a boxer with my arms tied on the ropes. Right. I was defenceless. I went up. I might have been a strong young man who could take a punch on the nose, but I went up. I didn't say a word back to my dad. I took it on board in tears. My mum went silent. She just let the old man, the king of the castle, say his piece. And there was a very powerful turning moment in my life. I knew I disappointed them, and it was down to me to pay them back. And I set about paying them back, and I did, because my dad told me, I don't want to be self-praised, but he told me how proud he was of me one day, so I was happy with that one.
So your parents are no longer with you. Do you, if you had the opportunity to speak to your mother and father, what would you say to them now?
What do you want to drink? Were you having a Guinness, Dad? Were you having a bottle of pills, Mum? Yeah, that'd be the first. Yeah,
it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Oh,
yeah. Do you?
I still get emotional. I miss them by the day.
Do you? This is a personal question to you. Do you believe in a kind of like? Are you religious? Do you believe in an afterlife? Do you feel that you will see these people again?
For sure, 100%. I believe in the good Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm a man about town. I go about my business. I'm not squeaky clean. I am me. And I might let the odd swear word out, or quite a few swear words at work, whatever, in humour. But it's what's in my heart. I go to my local church. I have a group of friends that we meet up with. Them are all from different walks and backgrounds. We could be from doctors to unemployed to myself, different colours, and it all comes through the good Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm convinced that I'll see my parents again one day, for sure.
So folks, anybody who wants to follow Joe, tell us, Joe, where they can watch you at.
Yeah, Kushti TV, it's my YouTube channel that I've just launched. My subjects are boxing, golf, and people of interest that I interview. So go on to Kushti TV, like and subscribe.
And the other thing is, of course, that people are interested in Joe, and I know you will be. He's got a great book out at the moment. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, the book's called Kushti. I originally had a Gypsy Joe book out, and basically, to be fair to you guys, it's really sort of two books. But Gypsy Joe went to 2009 or 10, and I've written an extra 11 years on my life, which is quite a bit of quite some interesting stuff in there when we weighed it up and analysed it. So Gypsy Joe has become Kushti in effect.